Hello, everyone out there in YouTube land. I am Matt Yancic. I am the founder and head game master here at Manufactured Myth and Legerdemain. And tonight, I have with me the man, the myth, the legend, Alpha Dean M. Lewis with us. So Dean is, I'm sure a lot of you know, he is co-host of the Cypher Unlimited YouTube show, and I know he's been doing Twitch, and he's a writer. He is a lover of superheroes, and he's got some exciting stuff coming up in the future. But we're here tonight to talk to him and get to know him a little bit better. So Dean, how are you doing tonight? How's it going?
Oh man, it's going great. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate, you reaching out to me and asking me to be a part of this. This is an honor and unexpected. And I'm pretty humbled that yeah, man, I'm really humbled that, somebody actually wants to interview me and talk to me about what I like, what I do. So,
that kind of surprises me, though. I mean, I guess it is kind of, I can say this as someone that's been doing my own little tiny thing that's nowhere near as popular as what you're doing with Cypher Unlimited. It would be weird if someone asked me to come on, but I feel like it's sort of inevitable. You guys have been around for, well, can you know what, I'm kind of getting ahead of things. Can you just sort of introduce yourself to everybody and tell everybody what it is that you do?
Well, everybody, like Matt said, I'm Dean M. Lewis, the AlphaDean out there. I am part of Cypher Unlimited, one third of the crew that
the Trinity.
Yeah, that founded this wonderful community on YouTube. We're approaching 4,000 members on Discord. We have a YouTube channel. We have a Twitch channel. We do live shows. We support Cypher System gaming in of itself. That's our thing. But we also like to talk to content creators across the board. Doesn't make a difference what you're into. So if you're out there and you're watching this stream, look us up. Come to our Discord channel. You can find us on Facebook under Cypher Unlimited as well. I also have a geek page called Sovereign Sentinels of Geekdom.
That's right.
A Cypher System affiliate. And we just, we're guys who love what we do. We love sci-fi, fantasy, action, you name it, it's what we're into. And I'm a writer, content creator, comic book aficionado, massively. I truly and utterly think comic books, I'm living in comic book nirvana these days because of the movie industry the way it is right now. Marvel Comics kind of rules the world.
Yeah, they kind of do, for better or for worse, like for good and for bad. They
exactly
really do.
For both. And so, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, I'm not sure what else I can say. I mean, I know you have some questions for me, so I'll be able to, answer those questions.
We're gonna find out. So you mentioned, of course, your affection for superheroes and science fiction and writing and all of that. I want to take us back to the days when little Dean was running around in his home. What was it that initially kind of sparked your interest in, or maybe it was a recent thing, but I kind of can tell by the classic X-Men 9.2 on the shelf behind you that it's probably something that's been going on for a very long time. What sparked your interest in that?
I was 4 or 5 years old when I learned to read, and my big brother gave me my first comic book. It was a Spider-Man comic book, never forget it. And literally, I can actually tell you, it was Amazing Fantasy 15. It was the first appearance of Spider-Man.
No, you're a liar.
Oh no.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, you don't believe me? If you don't believe me,
I believe you.
My mom's here. I could ask her.
You know what? Let's get your mom in here right now, because other YouTube channels, they just like interview like the person, but I want to know the person's mother. Can we get Mrs. Lewis in to confirm this?
Give me
Can we
just
get
a
her in?
second. Give me a sec. I'll see if she's available.
My word, this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is groundbreaking YouTube stuff here. How many other channels? They just give you the creator, right? Any channel can do that. But here at Roleplayer with 1,000 Faces, we bring you the creator's mother. At any moment, hopefully. It's taking a little longer than I thought it would. I'm stalling for time, trying to say something interesting, fascinating, trying to keep you, the viewer, involved, on the edge of your sheet, waiting, still waiting some more. I thought I
Here we
heard
go.
Mrs. Lewis. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, other channels, they give you the creator. Here at Roleplayer with 1,000 Faces, they give you not just the creator, but the creator's mother, the person that gave the creator life, the creator of the creator. Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This is Matt Yancik, Ma. He's his show, Role Player with 1,000 Faces. So
How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for coming on the program.
No, why not?
Well, I'd like to ask you a question or two about your son, if that's all right.
All right.
So I was just asking Dean about his love for science fiction and superheroes and for fantasy. Could you tell us a little something about that, or a little something about little Dean way back in the day?
Well, first of all, he's the youngest of seven.
Youngest of seven.
And he had two older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And his oldest brother was a Star Trek fiend for all his life. In fact, I had his coffin detailed with the Enterprise. That's how much he was into Star Trek. So they all came up with the sci-fi thing. I don't like it at all. I tease him all the time.
Not into science fiction?
No, but I don't knock it. And I'm glad that, it's something that he likes. It's something that he's involved in. And if it makes him happy, I'm happy.
That's great. I think that's so. Would you say that you try to sort of help him with his love for this sort of thing, even though maybe you didn't think it was the greatest thing in the world?
When he told me about the writing,
mm-hmm.
I asked him, I said, is it some more of that weird stuff that you like? And he said, yes, Mother. I said, well, I'm happy for you.
It is weird stuff, isn't it?
Yes. But you have to realize all of them, his brothers, mm-hmm. his sisters, they all like it. I was the oddball. And Dad, their father.
Really?
He was into it.
Yeah.
They used to get together. They had their men's time, and they'd get together and go see all of these movies and everything.
Yes, I know that Dean, I've talked to Dean a few times, obviously outside the program we talk, and he has mentioned his father's love, but I didn't know it was such a family sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But everybody else is into science fiction and fantasy. What sort of things were you into, Mrs. Dean?
I like mysteries.
Oh, okay.
I'm a mystery buff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any particular writers or movie makers or television shows that you enjoyed?
Oh, I like the kind of shows that I have to think mm-hmm. about and draw my own conclusions and see if I can solve the mystery along with whoever's solving it.
But so, I think in a way, I'd say that you do fit in with everybody else in the family. I mean, mystery is kind of one of those genres that's, it may not be like crazy sci-fi or like horror or whatever, but it's definitely a genre thing, and it's definitely something that's kind of exciting and interesting to sort of watch.
Oh yeah.
Mom is definitely fits in because you know what? As much as she talks about the weird stuff, we were all very well-rounded and eclectic. Mm-hmm. I have read and read everything. I don't read just sci-fi, just fantasy. It's just something that I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. We used to watch Murder, She Wrote on a regular basis.
Yes.
Love it. I still watch it every night.
My mother also, she gave me a love for the classics. I watched a lot of the classics. I read a lot of them, A Tale of Two Cities, Rebecca, things like that. So mom was instrumental in making sure I was well-rounded, because you can't be a sci-fi or a fantasy writer without being able to take those experiences from the real world and expound upon them, to extrapolate into a fantasy. Because when you really look at most fantasy and sci-fi anyway, what is it? Sci-fi, some of the greatest sci-fi things, are nothing but the buddy cop, but it's set in a fanciful world.
Yeah.
So I had to understand those things. We watched Murder on Orient Express together, and the Maltese Falcon, and all of those things. So mom was very instrumental. She gave us a love for the classics.
I would say that's the teacher in me thinks that's a super healthy thing. Like, I think that what happens all too often, and I think it's really good that maybe within your family, it sounds like each person kind of had a slightly different genre, but I think some creators or some people will simply focus on one genre, and if they stay within their genre, they never sort of expand their horizons.
Right.
And I think, like, if your mom, if Mrs. Dean is like watching, I loved, like, I used to watch Murder, She Wrote with my mother. I remember watching Angela Lansbury like every week, and there was that episode, I don't know if you remember, where it crossed over with Magnum PI.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Now we're all talking. Okay, now we're all in the same wave.
Well, you see, they come on every night.
Even now.
Murder, She Wrote comes on, and when Murder, She Wrote goes off, Magnum PI comes on.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay, cool.
Up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think it was Donald P. I think I'm getting way into the weeds.
Belisario.
Belisario was the producer for both. That's right.
And see, that's something else. As you get to know me, you'll know that I know movie producers, I know directors, I know the writers. Those things are important to me, because this is what I want to do myself. This is what I'm into. So, directors and producers and, stylized things, those are all, parts of what make up, Dean the guy. But, it all started with this lovely lady right here.
Well, it did. And Mrs. Dean, you should know that the chat in the parlance of the young folks that watch YouTube just blew up as soon as you came on. It's just immense. God bless mom. Name dropping. Ultimate GM intrusion. Dean, you'll get that one.
Absolutely.
There are a few people that are saying hello to Mrs. Lewis and God bless mommy. And there's a Brian Kurtz is saying Angela Lansbury is a treasure. But I would disagree. I would say you, Mrs. Dean, are a treasure.
Mrs. Lewis.
Mrs. Lewis. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Now I'm embarrassed.
That's all right. I named him Dean.
That's right. Close enough. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Maybe I will have you on exclusively on a future episode. I think a lot of people, from what we get in the chat, it looks like you're getting a lot of love, and a lot of people would probably like to talk to you exclusively, Mrs. Lewis.
Oh, okay, anytime.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have a very good night. What are you watching tonight, by the way?
Black or white?
Black or white?
Kevin Costner.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Well, enjoy.
Very good. It's very good.
I will check it out then. I will check it out. Thank you so much, Mrs. Lewis.
It's a good controversy story, but it's a wonderful story.
Thank you.
So you take care, dear.
You too. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the program.
All right, Mom. Thank you, Mom.
If this were a comic book, that would be first appearance, Mrs. Lewis.
Absolutely.
And that would be super valuable. Though probably people would argue about whether or not that was a cameo or an appearance or a full appearance, right? And people would be...
Yeah.
Oh, Ilana Lewis, this is so awesome. Way
That's
to go,
my
hubby and mom. So,
yeah, that's my wife.
Well, Ilana, guess what? You're coming on next time I have Dean. Okay, so don't get don't get too comfortable. But anyway, Dean, thanks so much.
Thank you, man.
Then tell us this love for all of these things in your youth. It grew in you. I mean, when did you start like writing or gaming or whatever?
when I say this was an eclectic thing and it's been with me for a long time, my other brother, my oldest brother, we lost him. He's no longer with us.
Hmm.
And he was going to put the comic books in my hand first. My other brother, my other living brother, was a musician like my father. Well, like, we all became musicians to some level there or another. But he introduced me to music, and it was orchestrated music. I had to be 6 or 7 years old, and I wrote my first piece of poetry because he put on. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there's a fusion jazz artist named Jean Lupanti, and there's a song called "The Cosmic Messenger,"
Hmm.
and that just caused my brain to explode. And the ideas and the thoughts, and then looking at comic books, and I wanted to create my own superhero. I wasn't satisfied with what was on the pages. I started realizing that I had these ideas, and I remember the first character I ever created. I should have actually dug that up. I could actually show you this
I'd
picture.
love to see that. Yeah.
I'll find it and we'll post it, for everybody to look at. But there's a character called the Mystic Fantasizer. Was my first character ever, and he
How
was
old were you when you created him?
7.
7. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 7 years old, the Mystic Fantasizer, and moving forward, here I am today, and I've read thousands of books and still read them today, and thousands of hours of science fiction and fantasy, but I'm very eclectic. I'm very much a movie buff. And I watch everything, like you say, we're watching Black and White, which is a drama, and documentaries, you name it, I'm into it.
I think that's a really, I think that's a really important thing, is being so well-rounded, because most of the time, whenever we talk to each other, it's almost always exclusively about like gaming, and sometimes we get into other things or whatever. But hearing this about you now, it actually doesn't surprise me in a way, just because as a teacher, what I've noticed in my students is some of the best students, and the ones that like sort of blossom the brightest maybe, are the ones that are sort of well-rounded, and so they have many different sorts of interests and many sort of pursuits. And then what they're able to do when they focus on one is they are able to actually bring all of the skills from those other pursuits and kind of focus them down like a laser on that one, and it makes that one thing so much better and so much deeper. When then did you sort of start taking the idea of creating seriously, and maybe, I guess this might blend in a little bit with like your art, with whenever you started playing RPGs?
That was all around the same time. I played my first RPG. I told you, my brothers, it's interesting because I'm like my mom said, I'm the youngest out of 7. There's a huge age gap. The nearest member in the family to me is 8.5 years older than me.
Oh, yeah.
So they were doing things. My brother was in the military. He was in the Marine Corps, and he brought me home my first box set of Dungeons and Dragons, the little white box with the pamphlets.
Oh, that set. Wow. Okay.
Yes. I was 7 years old when he brought that home. 7 years old, going on 8 years old. This was 1977. And yeah, now it's been 45 years.
What were you, do you remember anything about that time? Like, I try to think back to my first few games. I don't remember the details, but I do remember getting kind of caught up on it, in it. Do you remember like
the first game I ever played, the first character I ever played was Regnox Spilding. And he was a thief. And he was a dwarven. And I remember I had it was the coolest day because I remember we were searching for a dagger, a magical dagger. And I just remember that. I remember him having me sit there and my little brain exploded. It was that, the music, you know, what was going on. And that's how all of this really started. So RPGs just became, you know, they became an outlet.
Mm.
You know, and it didn't, I didn't realize that the level of creativity that was within me. I didn't latch on to the idea that I could actually do this, you know, and be a part of, you know, someone else's, you know, envisioning, if you will.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, it all started to coalesce. And by the time I made it to high school, I was, you know, junior high, actually, probably seventh, eighth grade. You know, it just was there. I knew that I wanted to do this. I wanted to break in some way, somehow.
Mm.
I have tons of stuff written. I'm
I was
always
going to ask, when you say written, are you writing at that point like short stories or books, or are you writing like material for role playing?
all of the above.
All of it. Okay.
I was writing short stories. I was writing poetry. I was writing. Um, I was creating comic book layouts. You know, storylines, comic book characters. I was creating adventures. I was creating my own content. You know, you know the whole idea of house ruling. I've got
Yeah.
probably, I think they're over there. I've got like 7 or 8 3-ring binders that were different worlds that, you know, I created for, you know, gaming. And I was never one of those people who was exclusively one thing. It was, I found Dungeons and Dragons. And then in 1982, I got my hands on Villains and Vigilantes,
Right.
you know, superheroes. That was my thing. Then in 1984, Marvel Superheroes came out.
Yeah.
That was, it was over, you know, but I was playing Star Frontiers at the time, Boot Hill, you know, and I know I'm dating myself, you know, but then, you know, of course, there was the Palladium games that came out, you know, so Palladium had an entire line, you know, Rifts, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know.
Eric Woodsick,
you know, the list goes on and on and on, you know, and I've always been the guy, we would pick up indie games and stuff like that, you know, so all flesh must be eaten, you know, things that, you know, people don't know.
Yeah.
So
you know, it's funny listening to you describe it. I can see now why you love Cypher System so much. I mean, because it's not like I see a common thread, obviously, of, you know, creative stuff, science fiction, fantasy, superheroes. But I also see the fact that, you know, you're all over the place as far as your interests go. You're into a little bit of everything. Is that, did you feel like, was there like a golden moment where you were kind of like, this is the game that I want to play? Like, you mentioned all these things that I totally played, because Dean and I are basically we're the same generation. And so everything that you mentioned, I was totally into too. And I'm curious to know, did you have kind of a favorite, like say going, like when you're graduating high school or whatever, as you're leaving high school, like, are you thinking, I like this game, or I'm going to play that game? Or was there something around that time that you were really into?
There were 2 games when I was graduating high school. I loved Paranoia and I loved Marvel Superheroes.
West End Games and TSR.
Yes, those 2 were my thing. And then shortly thereafter, the Star Wars game came out and kind of replaced Paranoia. West End Game, Star Wars, the D6 version. The D6 version, specifically the D6 version.
Right. Why was it, so why did you like that one so much then? Was it the D6 stuff, or was it?
Nope, it was just the content, and it was the way the content was presented. You know, they conceptually gave you archetypes. They didn't call them classes, and they were more skill driven, as opposed to, here is a block.
Yeah.
And this is the road you walk down. You know, I mean, the fact that there was the alien student of the Force versus just being a Jedi. Right. You know, then there was the Quixotic Jedi.
Right. That's exactly what I was about to say. Right.
So you had dimensions within the realm itself, and Star Wars was a rich world. So, you know, something that a lot of people will learn about me is that I'm I'm not into so much the established realms where the story's already been written. So for me, like Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings game, great game. I love Lord of the Rings. I read Lord of the Rings, but I never want to play in that world because the greatest story has already been told. You know,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to top
you
that.
know that story. Their story is told. So when I run games, when I put people into the game, they're my heroes. They're the heroes of the world.
Right.
They get to write the tapestry. They get to be the mosaic. They're become the standard for that world. So Star Wars, even though the Skywalker saga is a great thing, Star Wars was so huge,
Right.
so massive that you could tell your own story. You could go off to this little corner of the galaxy, you know, and your players were paramount. So it was an established realm that you could do that in. And there were a few established franchises like that. You know, Star Trek is one.
Yeah.
You know, because you can set it in a different time zone or whatever. You know, Marvel superheroes. That's another one because Marvel, you know, the original multiverse.
Yeah.
They did it first. You know.
Yeah.
And everybody else kind of jumped on the bandwagon.
Wasn't Marvel superheroes, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Marvel superheroes kind of similar to the West End Games D6 Star Wars, only in that they gave you a template? I don't remember if you could make up your own heroes or not.
Oh, yes, you
Couldn't
could.
you
Absolutely.
Later on you could?
No. Right from the beginning, right out the gate.
Okay.
Right from the beginning, you rolled on it was a D100 game. So it was percentages.
That's right.
And everything was based on percentage charts. And what they used is they had the universal chart, which, you know, went from feeble to
that's
monstrous.
Right.
Feeble to monstrous.
Yes, they used all of the
right. And then when the advanced edition came out, we got, you know, class 100, class 500, class 1000, you know, shift X, Y, and Z, and then beyond, because they were allowing you to, you know, replicate the ideologies of the Beyonder.
That's right. I remember because the levels reminded me a little bit of Cypher system in that if you look at the Cypher, the 10 levels, they've each got like a classification, and Marvel, or at least Jeff Grubb and I forgot Steve something, the other guy that actually wrote it. I think what they did was they took the Marvel titles like spectacular, amazing.
Right. It was incredible.
Incredible, uncanny.
It was actually feeble, good. Mm-hmm. This shows you just how much I loved it. Feeble, good, excellent, incredible, remarkable, incredible, amazing, and then monstrous. That was the original chart.
Okay. I always feel like I have to really be on my game when I talk to you. Like I get this feeling like whenever we chat, I always feel like most of the time I'm one step ahead of most other people. But when I talk to you, I feel like you're one step ahead of me. But I definitely benefit from it.
Well, thank you very much. I just try to be on my game. If I'm going to talk about that's probably something that many people love about me, but also hate, because I won't talk about something I don't know. But if I'm talking about it, then I know it, and 99% of the time I'm going to be passionate about it. You know. So
let me ask you this then. Is it safe to say that you consider yourself to be more of a GM than a player, or is that incorrect? Or are you both?
I'm actually both, because what I try to do, even as a GM, on the GM side of the screen, I try to bring personality to every character that I have to control. I try to make it an experience. You know, Cypher system has given me the tools and the in the environment that is just natural now. My story with Cypher Systems is simply that 2013, I was going through, I guess you can call it the beginning stages of RPG burnout. I really was. And I was frustrated with what was out there. I was tired of what I call systemology. It drove me up a wall. Everybody had to have a system. And I literally had started the process of creating my own system. And Monte Cook, threw up his first Kickstarter for Numenera. And I've always liked Monte Cook. Monte Cook always, exactly, you know, Monty always, uh, he always delivered, you know, no matter what it was, you
Yeah.
know, he always delivered. And it was always inspirational. So I'm like, yeah, let me back this. And I backed it and I got my copy of Numenera and I knew it was something special.
It is, isn't it?
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I didn't have a clue to what I was holding. My first two games were disasters. My first two Numenera games were absolute disasters. And um, slowly but surely, what ended up happening, I went to a convention and I played with somebody who had grasped the system. And that's when I had what I like to call my paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And I realized that I didn't have to write this game. Monty
Right.
Cook did it, you know.
Right.
And that was it, you know. And that's what would happen with Cypher System. And then when they put out the Cypher System rule book with just the open field, it was like, oh man, home run.
Yeah.
You're,
I agree. Like, it's funny that you say those things. I was very late to the party when it came to Numenera. I was at least a couple or 3 years after. And I found it. I was browsing. I used to live in Alaska, and I was browsing one of the game stores there. And and I saw this game, Numa, what?
mm-hmm.
And I picked it up, and I bought it used for like $30. And what Dean is saying, for those of you that maybe haven't played the game, I wore this shirt basically because I know Dean's a big Cypher guy. And so I just wanted to, like, you know, in honor of Dean tonight, I'm wearing Numenera. But Numenera is genuinely, I think, my favorite RPG setting of all time. And what I like is something about the game so much, the system, is something that actually Brian Kurtz was saying it as you were mentioning this, Dean, in the chat. He says, I do love making NPCs in Cypher. I spend 0.1 seconds choosing their level and the stats are done. And yep. I think that's it, is it's a shift, like you're saying. It's suddenly, you're really just focused on telling a story, right? And I feel like it's, as far as going, for the GMs that haven't played Numenera or Cypher, there are no dice that the GM rolls, right? So right. It's like going commando for a game master. And that's one of the things that Dean is talking about here, is that shift. What was that? Oh, please.
I was just going to say, I call it the paradigm shift, but one of the things that you'll hear many people who are really into Cypher System, Numenera, so on and so forth, we will tell you that it is probably the most simple system you've ever touched in a lot of respects when it comes to such an elegant game. It's elegant in its simplicity. You can do so much within that simplicity, because to summarize it in a nutshell, for those of you out there who don't know what the Cypher System is, the Cypher System literally is levels 1 through 10. The 1 through 10, anytime you set, that's your difficulty levels. You multiply the difficulty level by 3, that's your target number on a 20-sided die. You have a simple mechanic that can affect that difficulty, and that's it. That's the game in a nutshell. And then you have these magnificent things called GM intrusions that the GM gets to do. And it teaches you this lesson. In most games, you roll a 1, it's bad, it's a fumble, you know, everybody gets frightened. GM intrusions taught me that rolling a 1 does not necessarily have to be bad. It's just a story complication. That's Cypher System.
And I think that's what sort of cemented it for me. Like, and I think you mentioned the first couple times you had trouble running it. I think I had trouble running it my first couple times because I was overthinking it, and I was coming at it from decades
coming at it from the traditional sense
of playing, like what the heck was the name of that game? Cinnabar. That what was it? It was Cinnabar. Just like I'm talking about. Like I had. If for those of you that don't know, Cinnabar is, and this is. I don't want to spread rumors, or I don't want to cause like any problems here, but Cinnabar is known for being one of the most overly weird, like overly designed games and most ridiculous games ever. It's like a kitchen sink game, and it's just ridiculously rules oriented and tough.
And the other game that comes from that era that was like that is called Phoenix Command.
Oh, I've never played that. I'll have to look it up.
Oh, if you did not have a command of baseline calculus, you I'm just putting it out there. Algebra, calculus, geometry, trigonometry were necessary to play Phoenix.
I teach 5th grade math, Dean. That's as high as it goes. Ratio tables, which by the way are what are used in Cypher system. I'm so sorry. This is very geeky right now, but Dean, what I want to know then is, so how do you like approach creating, say, your game for Numenera or your game for Cypher system? So we talked a little bit about like the stuff that you were creating in the past, but when you're creating a game for someone, is there some sort of methodology or approach that you have?
Believe it or not, it's Cypher has again made it simple. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just have a conversation, and it depends on what the person is telling me they're into or what they have. For example, prime example, I introduced three straight D&D players, 5e, 3.5, 4e players. I introduced them last night to Cypher system. Blew them away. Knocked them off their feet because I knew they came from traditional D&D. So what did I do? I came up with a traditional D&D adventure, but what I did was I tipped the concept of the character classes on their ear within the parameters of the characters. We all know Cypher system only has 4 archetypes. So I took a warrior, I made a martial artist, a Kensai, so you get the monk feel. I also made basically, a barbarian, but he was a half, I call them a polytheme, which are half-breed giants. So they're either half ogre, half orc, half human, whatever, but they're polythemes. And he walked around with a huge harpoon, and being able to allow a person to understand that this is cinematic. This is watching a movie. This is watching your favorite television show. So that's the approach I come at. I come at the approach that I'm going to give you a cinematic experience. I'm going to give you a comic book experience, depending on what genre we're playing in. If we're playing, sci-fi and it's going to be hard sci-fi, okay, then you know what? Let's think about 2001: A Space Odyssey. Let's think about, let's think about Logan's Run, things like that had a straight line edge.
So then, like before the game, are you sort of thinking, okay, well, tonight we're going to do a Logan's Run feel, or tonight we're going to, and does that serve as sort of an anchor for you throughout like the rest of the game?
Absolutely.
How about the nuts and bolts of actually getting in there and looking at, okay, I've got a 4-hour game tonight or a 5-hour game I'm going to play tonight. How do you sit down and write out your script or flow chart or your outline, or what do you?
I've been using a method for years, and somebody encapsulated it. I forgot, he called it like the 7-5-2-1 method or something like that. But what I've always done, especially, moving into the here and now, I've always said, okay, I need to have, if I'm going to sit down for a 4-hour session, I need to have at least 3 set pieces. So 3 locations that the players have to get through. I need to have at least 2 lieutenants that they're going to, have, and then I've got a big bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything else, the players create for me.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of Cypher. If you decide to go left, okay, go left. And the fact that I haven't set rails, like we talk about it all the time, we talk about not railroading our players. We don't railroad players in Cypher. We roller coaster you. I
like that.
There are rails, but they go this way and that way. Yeah. Eventually, they're kind of come back.
I think the way you're describing it sounds very much like one thing. The way that I used to describe it when I was teaching my 4th and 5th graders is I would describe them like tent poles, right? So I had these posts along the way, like these major beats that I kind of know I want to hit. But then the flesh on the bones, if I can add another metaphor in there, that's kind of like I leave up to the players. And it sounds like your approach is to do something very similar to that. And I think like you're saying,
no, I'm saying you're exactly right. That's it. You got it.
So then for, and forgive me if I press this question again, what do you actually do before the game? Are you just thinking about those 3 different locations, those 3 different set pieces?
Exactly. Again, like I said, if it's going to be a typical, 1-shot 4-hour session, I really think about the personality of those major players that they have to encounter. That's important because if that person isn't interesting, if that person is shallow or hollow or, not encapsulated, then the players are going to be, it's not going to do anything for the players, and that they're not going to buy in. So that's important. I want to make sure my descriptions for those locations are there. The other thing is I do my own mental exercises, because the thing that I do also is I try to be very descriptive. I try to be able to, give an action sequence, I think about, I make myself a weird little list of words, that are action.
That's good.
These are actions, and those words literally will inspire, various things, even for my GM intrusions. I don't write out my GM intrusions. I use an intrusion deck, and I'll just use that as an inspiration sometimes if I need it. Other times the players will give you what you need. I've said this 1,000 times on, other places. One of my favorite intrusion ever was the time the players were, you had one player, he was called himself the greatest swordsman in the land. And, he was crushing everything, he was just killing it. And he ended up rolling a 1, and instead of, your typical, you break your sword or you lose it. No, he's fighting a city guard. And the city guard catches the blade of his sword and looks him dead in the eyes and goes, "You're not as good as you think you are."
Yeah.
So
you made something. Oh, go ahead.
But I'm just saying, and that guard ended up becoming an NPC that played that player character for like the next 4 or 5 sessions.
That's great. And so for those of you maybe not familiar with the system, so what Dean is talking about here, and what's really interesting about Cypher and Numenera and Monte Cook's kind of suite of games, is that on a roll of a 1, you get the possibility of a GM intrusion. And so with the GM intrusion is not supposed to be like other games where you roll a 1 and it's automatic like botch or a fail or fumble or whatever. It's actually supposed to be something interesting and kind of like a twist sort of enters the story. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. And it could be something, that's just a twist, as Dean was kind of mentioning there. So I actually think that that's a really good approach, Dean. I actually really like that. Let me ask you this then. I've heard you say this again and again, but I'm not sure if it's quite true. Do you have a preference for 1-shots over longer campaigns, or?
Actually, no. The only reason I do lots of 1-shots is because of the world we live in today. Especially with COVID. I love campaigns. I love long-term stories. I cannot wait to get my hands on Talus. For those
I know.
I cannot wait, because Talus is now coming for 5th edition and Cypher system. And I have plans for a long-term adventure. I have plans for, we at Cypher Unlimited, which I haven't mentioned, and I'm sorry, guys, Cypher Unlimited, you guys, just so you know, Cypher Unlimited, like I said before, we're the largest fan-run server for Cypher system games, all things Monte Cook games online right now. come over
I
to our Discord and hang out.
I absolutely positively recommend it. First of all, I want to say that all of all of the links to the stuff that Dean is connected to are in the description below. The other thing I want to say is that the Cypher System Discord, the Cypher Unlimited Discord, is where I got some really excellent feedback. I do post every so often, like PDFs. I did a Robotech Veritech like about a month or two ago. Oh, thank you. I did that a month or two ago, and I posted it in the Cypher Unlimited Discord and just said, what does anybody think of this? And I'm an English teacher of 20 years. I'm a role player of 30. And I got possibly one of the best critiques of this thing that I just threw. I mean, it was about 14 pages, and I worked really hard on it. And somebody on the Discord gave me a wonderful critique of it. So if you're a Cypher creator, if you're trying, even if you're just writing, and I really recommend the people that are on that Discord are really like very helpful. And I just want to say too, I'm not being paid to endorse this. I've said this on every one of my episodes. I look at like my books on the back shelf here, and I think about people I know, or I think about creators I'd like to talk to, and I just grab them and I talk to them. So it kind of goes without saying that if you see someone on my show, then I'm really supportive of whatever they're doing, because I very much enjoy it. So I do recommend that you check out the links.
Yeah.
To get into a little bit more of your stuff now, Dean, and I because like this chat has just gone really fast, and we're running out of time. I wanted to talk about some upcoming projects and some writing work that you've been doing, and a certain I'd like to. Can you tell us maybe something that's coming up?
Yeah, I'm working on a big project for Cypher System, Diamond Throne, which was also Monte Cook creation. He created Arcana Evolved, and it was phenomenal. It was Arcana Unearthed first, and then it was Arcana Evolved. And what it was a variant player's handbook during 3rd edition, and a group called Here Be Dragons out of Italy got the licensing. They did a successful Kickstarter, and they hired many of us from the community, who have a body of work and so on and so forth, to write for them. At this point right now, I'm working on that particular thing. So I'm pretty excited. There's some big names along with that. Robert Schwab, Ed Greenwood are there. Our very own Gonza Gaming, Gonza Gaming, or Christopher Negline. He probably has the he does. He actually has the biggest Cypher System creator program library of anybody out there.
No kidding.
He has some great stuff. So we're working on things. I'm working on the magic system now to implement a alternative magic system to give people more Vancian feel. And it's coming along really, really good. I do have a product already out for that on Drive-Thru RPG, and it's called Malvando's Modivicum, which a Modivicum is Latin for handbook. So there is that version. What you're going to see in the Diamond Throne book, though, is a tweaked, modified version, which I'll probably end up adding to the Modivicum as well as a free update, or errata, however you want to. So it'll just be another option. But I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm also another thing I'm working on for that too is also I'm working on the adventure. There's a 3-part mega campaign.
Oh, no kidding! Right.
And I'm writing part 1 of that as well. So that's
Can you give us some? This is like my big thing, Dean. This is the big moment. Can you give us a little snippet or something, like the magic system? Tell us a little bit about it, or are there like non-disclosure agreements?
I can say that, like I said, if you look at the Modivicum, if you get a copy of that off of Drive-Thru RPG, you'll get a good idea of kind of the direction we're going to go. But um, I've truly modified it to be very much Cypher.
Okay.
Okay. Um, but I can tell you there's a fourth pool called the primal or primordial pool, whichever word you like.
Oh, in
And
addition to the other three pools that.
correct,
Oh,
correct.
cool.
There,
Okay.
you know,
Neat.
but you get this pool just like, it like other things, like if you get a luck pool or the adroit, the adroit descriptor gives you an additional pool. It works similar to that. You give up a ability from your type to add this pool. But I've modified it also where the pool will work for people who don't cast magical spells. So if you're a martial character, there will be martial benefits to having a primal pool. So I think that's pretty good.
That's, yeah, it's like, I think I'm done at this point. I think I've gone right up to the line right before I'd get sued and stop.
There you go.
Well, thanks for the info on that, Dean. Kind of like with that sort of idea in mind, I was kind of wondering, is there something like you've been thinking about for a long time, or some big project that you kind of want to get off the ground here? I mean, is there something like, if I gave you a blank check and I said, go ahead and make the game that you want to make, or do that thing that you want to do, and it doesn't have to be game, it could be something different. Is there some big thing that Dean Lewis wants to do?
For those who know me, I'm a martial artist, a practitioner of martial arts. Been doing it for many years as well. And I would love, and I'm actually working on it. I actually have the preliminaries of a wuxia style of setting.
Oh, right. Yeah, you guys have meant, yeah.
We've used some of the mechanics that I've come up with for Spigs. If you look on our Cypher Unlimited YouTube channel, we actually have a couple of actual plays where we use some of the mechanics and abilities that I created to encapsulate that. But I have an idea for an actual setting, a wuxia setting, where it's wuxia meets 1930s gangsters.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about it like that, and
would it be for Cypher, or is it something specific like with your own rule set?
I would put it together for Cypher, but I'm looking at putting it together as system agnostic, so you could apply it to whatever you want it. It's just the setting, just that feeling, that cool, because I love, as much as I love superheroes, I also love the pulp era. My father gave me a huge love for that when I was younger. I got to go watch the old serials, Captain Marvel, Rocket Man, The Whisperer, The Shadow, all those old black and white serials. And I also listened to radio shows. There was a independent radio station that used to play the old radio shows. So that was another thing that kind of plugged into being a game master, being a creative, and that genre has always been so cool to me.
What's neat, and I've been thinking a lot about this since you just mentioned it, but you kind of brought up something I've been considering. So when everything shifted to going online because of COVID, I kept thinking about how frustrating it was to play online. But then I tried to put my teacher hat on, and I tried to sort of look at like, okay, let's look at what's good about this. What's good about playing online? What can we do with it? And after about a year of this, I feel like I've gotten better at using the online stuff. But what's interesting is you mentioned like listening to the old radio programs. I think that is a great idea, because I think that what it does is it probably gives any game masters or players like really great, a great sort of, it tunes your ear for like holding someone's attention. And I think that maybe Dean and I might be revealing our age by a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, but you young whippersnappers out there should know that the stuff that we're talking about, I think, gives us a good foundation in like, in doing a lot of the stuff, a lot of the disciplines that come along with game mastering. So if I recommend that you go back and rewatch this and like it as many times as you can, but go back and rewatch this, and then for sure take a few notes on some of the things that Dean mentions, because it is very true. And what he's saying here, these things really help to develop someone as a GM. What? Let me ask. I'm sorry, I just gave a soliloquy. I didn't mean to do that.
Good.
Let me know then, Dean. Can you tell us, maybe finally and ultimately here, what do you hope to sort of do, or how do you envision like the community growing? And I don't mean necessarily just Cypher Unlimited or the Discord, but like the role-playing community. How do you see it, like, kind of, what would you like to see happen to it in the next 5 or 10 something years?
Well, believe it or not, I think it's already happening. What I would have liked to see, we're living in what I call the platinum age or the diamond age of gaming, because it's totally and utterly accessible. It's no longer, looked upon as the thing that gets done in the basement, the cellar dwellers, the,
Right.
The unmentionable people, the nerdy, geeky, being a nerd and a geek is cool these days, and then you've got the pretty people, who are into gaming. You got Joe Magniello or whatever.
I can't say his name either. Yeah.
He's married to Sofia Vergara, beautiful woman. You've got Deborah Ann Wall. She was the player on Daredevil. She played character on the Daredevil TV series. So you've got people. I mean, Vin Diesel. You've got these people who are big names, who are not considered nerds nor geeks. So I would just perceive that what's happening now, that, it'll just be commonplace for you. You could literally put on a resume when, Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeon Master, gives you status, being able to handle a meeting, social.
I agree.
And for people to understand that, the fact that we've yourself and myself and those players have been doing this for 30 years, but we're still holding down regular lives. We go to regular jobs. We're teachers, and we're executives at businesses and so on and so forth. That people can finally understand that this was a social convention. It's literally what it was.
Yeah.
It taught us, and it teaches us to be social and how to sit across the table. It teaches you conflict resolution without there necessarily being a conflict. I mean, so many things come from being able to be a part of this type of community. So if you can be a part of it, if I can be a part of it, and we can be functional and viable in society, why can't everybody? Why can't this become a part? I think it should become part of school. They should actually, offer, give credits towards people who get into, this type of thing, because it's good.
I agree.
It's very good. And it's taught me how to be tolerant. It's taught me how to be accepting. I'm a very eclectic person, but, some people, may not be as socially capable as I am. Some people might have anxiety when it comes to people. These are ways to get over those obstacles. I've used this to work with veterans coming home to help them transition back into the real world. I've used this with children who are on the spectrum, to give them an outlet. I've used this to get a date.
And that, of course, is the most important use.
Listen, my wife, and I can tell you, since you already said it, my wife she is a geek. She just didn't know it. I helped her find her geek.
Her inner geek.
Yes, I helped her find the fact, that my wife is just as nerdy as I am. She's just a nurse. She's just she's a medical nerd, but she's a geek. And now she's a gamer, part-time, on top of the fact that, I'm lucky enough to marry her and she's gorgeous and very supportive too. So I'm just batting 1,000.
Well, she's coming on the next program. The next time that we talk, Dean, it won't be your mom, it'll be your wife. as
Okay.
a guest. Well, Dean, I want to continue, but we're using up your time, and I actually think that what you just said is a really wonderful and positive way to kind of end the program tonight. I want to thank you very much for coming on and for being a guest. I will definitely have you back at some point in the future. I wish you great. I mean, I feel weird saying like I wish you great success in your future because I'm probably going to talk to you tomorrow. But
Yeah.
the host in me is saying I wish you great success in the future. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll just say thank you for having me on the show.
Uh,
I'm again, like I said, humbled and it was exciting. Thank you very much for having me
yeah,
on the show. And
I
I'll definitely come back.
I had a lot of fun. So, for those of you watching at home, if you had some fun yourself, please do like and subscribe. In fact, if you want to make up some ghost accounts and subscribe on your ghost accounts, every subscription counts. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. So thank you very much. I'm going to be back actually pretty soon with another interview, I hope to see you then. And once again, everybody have a safe and happy good night.
Yeah, thank